Well, for the last couple of weeks, we've been in a little series that I've entitled Refresh. And the basic idea is that we want to be people who experience the refreshment of God at work in our lives, and people who can refresh others in the things they're dealing with. Hopefully, you're a kind of person that wants to be a refreshing person. I mean, no one really wants to be around a stick in the mud. It's just not fun, and no one wants to be that person. No one wants to be the irritable, angry, frustrated individual. We all picture ourselves as life-giving people. We want to be people who help encourage others and put a smile on other people's faces. And when we walk into a room, we want people to like the fact that we're entering and not like the fact that we're leaving, as opposed to if you flip those roles. I've known some people that I like it far better when they leave than when they come. I want to be the other one. I want to be the kind of person that people like when I come, not when I leave. And I know you want to be that kind of person too. And so we've learned the principle that I called the refreshment principle. And this is the way that we both experience the refreshment from God and give to others the refreshment that we want to give to others. And it just basically goes like this. I've written it on the top of your note sheet. It's been there for the last few weeks. It's simply this: I am most refreshed when God moves through me to refresh others. I can do nice things for other people all the time, but if I'm not really letting God move in me, then all I'm doing is working out of my own strength, and I can burn myself out pretty quickly. But if I'm letting God sort of lead me according to the way He wants me to go, and if I'm following the gifts that He's given me and doing the things that He's called me to do, and through that process blessing other people, well, then I enjoy it. I experience great joy and refreshment myself because God is refreshing me as I refresh others. That's the basic principle we've been talking about. But today, I want to take it one step farther and kind of bring it to this big summary. We originally learned the principle when Jesus was talking to this woman at a well. And He told her that He had living water to offer her. And she said, well, I'd like it. And He said, okay, first step, go get your husband. Because if Jesus is going to give living water to someone, He wants that person to be ready to give that living water to someone else. It's this flow He's talking about. But I think we could abstract from that and say that probably Jesus is the most refreshing person who's ever lived. Because every single person who came into contact with Jesus either loved Him or was offended by Him. And the people who were offended by Him were the snobs. And we're refreshed when snobs get offended, right? I mean, when the religious sort of elite people, the people who are telling you what's right and wrong and all the stuff, if they sort of get shocked by someone, then the average, normal, ordinary person says, hey, that's pretty cool. So Jesus refreshed people by even offending other people. It was really kind of cool. So here's the deal. I'm going to make a claim for you today, and it's going to shape the rest of this, and hopefully it shapes a large portion of your life. Go ahead and write this down. This is your first blank to fill out if you're doing the blank things. If we do what Jesus did, we will be refreshing people. If we do what Jesus did, we will be refreshing people. There's this passage in Mark chapter 7, verse 37, where it says about Jesus, He does everything well. I'd love it if people would say that about me. He does everything well. That would be cool, you know? But they said it about Jesus, and they didn't say it about Jesus because He could slam dunk the basketball or because He could impress people with His mad skills on a skateboard. It was that they thought Jesus was so awesome because everything He did was a good thing. The words He spoke, the actions He showed to people, they were all good. And so people could say everything He does is good. That's all He ever does. That's a great way to talk about Him. Well, let's look at something Jesus said about Himself. That's in Luke 19. It's on your note sheet here. Jesus said, "For the Son of Man came to seek and to save what was lost." He often talked about Himself using this phrase, the Son of Man. But here in this verse, He tells us exactly why He came and why He did everything that He did. So we could say that if we do what Jesus did, we'll be refreshing people. But here's the deal. What Jesus did was all about this thing here. It says, seek and to save the lost. Now that's an interesting thing, because basically what that means is it means that Jesus' entire program, His entire purpose, was something that we in our modern day terms would use the word evangelism to describe. And evangelism is a word that's gotten a bad rap. If you know what evangelism is, you probably don't actually know. You probably think you know, but you probably don't actually know. Because the Greek word evangelism just simply means good news, giving people good news. But ordinarily, evangelism gets a bad rap because we think evangelism, this phrase, means I'm going to try to convince you to become a Christian. And if you don't want to become a Christian, I'm going to argue with you. And if I argue well enough, then maybe you'll get mad at me and walk away yelling some nasty words at me, and then I can smile saying I've been persecuted for my faith. And if all things work out well, either you become a Christian or I walk away feeling vindicated as a persecuted individual. That's the way we think of evangelism. And so as a result, you get some pretty obnoxious evangelists. You get people standing on the corners with megaphones telling everybody around them they're going to hell. And yet you never see Jesus do that. I don't know why we got into this mode, because Jesus doesn't do that stuff. But anyway, evangelism got a bad rap. And back in 1984, evangelism started to turn around. It started to get a better term, started to get a better idea about what evangelism really was about. Because there was a man named Guy Kawasaki. Have any of you ever heard of this guy? Guy Kawasaki? Yeah, his first name is Guy, so I can call him Guy. So he was hired by Apple Computer, and I kid you not, his job title was Mac Evangelist. His job was to try to convince the world that they needed to buy a Macintosh. You didn't have to do a lot of convincing, because I'm going to take you on a little history of the computer right here. Because I know you all know, if any of you know me, you know I'm geeky and I like this stuff. Here is an IBM PC, complete with clicky keyboard, green phosphorus screen, and those disk drives on the side that were actually floppy. Actually, you could hold them and wiggle them, and they'd be like a Polaroid film camera. You know, they'd flop around. Any of you in here remember those things? And you'd close the little tab on the front, and it'd go ka-chunk. And then about an hour later, your 300 kilobytes were into your computer. It was an amazing technological advance. And that's what computers were like back in 1984. If you zoomed in on an IBM screen, it might say something like this: all pretty and filled with color, and the resolution is like 40 by 60. It was just amazing. You know, my iPod has better resolution than that thing. Or this is the one that I really liked. This was the Commodore 64, if I can get it to come up on the screen here. The Commodore 64, that was, oh, someone went woohoo. Who was that? Yeah, we got to talk afterwards. That'd be awesome. Okay, so the Commodore 64 was the first massively successful home personal computer. It beat the Apple II in many respects, and it actually had 16 colors that could show up on the screen, and 64K of user memory inside the machine.